Hello, welcome back to the channel and of course a new video for this week. So last week we went over the cooling towers. I'm just amazed at the response, the amount of comments I got about the cooling towers, and I think for me it kind of epitomizes really what I'm trying to achieve with this new extension on Heaton Lodge, because they more than anything else kind of demonstrate or give a good example of the size and how big everything is. And of course the turbine house for the power station, which is unfinished as yet, but we're going to be working on in the next couple of weeks, is actually straight behind me, as you can see. But anyway, thanks for all your comments, really appreciated. It gives me so much inspiration to get such good feedback at the same time as you like watching the video, so it works both ways. This week we're just going to do a quick recap of the track laying that I've done since I last saw you. We're going to be looking at the diorama, which for those of you that have recently started watching my videos, I'm just doing a 12 foot by 8 foot, and in fact it's made up of 2 boards, just to the same standard as Heaton Lodge Phase 1, just to take you through all the different scenery and how I actually put it all together. So that's in the offing as well today. But anyway, let's crack on and get through today, and I'll see you soon. Okay, quick recap on what we're doing here. Of course, this is the diorama that I just mentioned in the beginning that we're going to be doing in the next few weeks, including ballasting, all sorts of different stuff to bring it up to exactly the same standard as what you're used to seeing on Heaton Lodge Phase 1. But if you just follow me, in fact, before you follow me, this embankment here is going to run all the way down this side of the layout, which of course is where the operators are going to be standing. And it's just made out of, you might remember, shelving units from B&Q. And because it's only going to be carrying a lightweight, i.e. these polystyrene slabs, which is just going to be an embankment, doesn't really matter that they won't be that robust, but it just means I can unhook them whenever I want, which is great for transportation. Anyway, let's go down here. Since I last saw you, I'll show you what I've been doing. So these 2 lines on the far left are the first 2 main lines of Heaton Lodge. Some of you, again, that have watched these videos will know that Heaton Lodge has 4 main lines. The one on the left is line 1, the innermost one. Line 2 is next to it. These are the sidings I've just been building for the general freight trains from line 2, and then right over the other side we've got lines 3 and lines 4, which we'll come to in a minute. But anyway, I've just been bringing lines 1 and 2 into a gentle curve and bringing them in a bit, because this line 2, as you can see with the point on it next to the drill, this is the beginning of the staging sidings for the general freight trains, and you can see that I've linked up 1 of the lines up, and then the other 3 are going to link up to the point work you can just see there, and that is going to be the staging sidings for line 2. They're not as long, these staging sidings, get my words out, as lines 3 and 4, simply because the gradients on lines 1 and 2 are a bit steeper, so I'm going to keep the trains a little bit shorter. The big MGR freight trains, which are about 30 or 40 foot long, are going to be sticking to lines 3 and 4. So that's basically what I've been doing since I last saw you. By bringing these 2 lines inwards, as you can probably guess, I've lined up this point as we follow it with the first side in here. So then these three other points will line up with this point here, and they'll make a nice kind of fan, which is what we want with a nice, neat, marshalling yard. The other reason why I brought this track in is because that means I can then run a point from line 1, where you can just see the end here, and it will create the staging sidings for this line all the way down there. It might look a long way down there, but it's in fact, I'd say it's probably about 25 meters. So in fact, we'll just have a walk down while we're here. Let's just have a walk down. This is all that remains of the old fiddle yard. Here, this is all coming up. And of course, the new marshalling yard is going to take its place. And we've got the embankment running down on the inside. So that's where we are. Just a box of track there, which I'm reusing as much track as I can because track's expensive, as we all know. I've even lifted all the old points as well. So again, they're all going to be reused too. And that is just about where I am. We'll nip over the other side because I just want to show you that water feature that we did a few weeks ago. So let's just go and have a look at that. Okay, so before we go over to the other side, let me just show you how to make super tarpaulins, because this was a trick that I learned from the late great Alan Downs. Thank you, Alan, if you're watching from up in heaven. And it really does make super tarpaulins. And all you need is something that everybody carries. and that is, well, they'll carry on them, obviously, they have them in the house, and that is loo roll. And you simply need 3 or 4 sheets, depending on how big your load is, of course. This is quite a long steel load that we're using at the minute, so I'm just going to really kind of fold it over the end, just so it goes gently over the end. It doesn't matter how many layers you use. What I would do is probably use a minimum of 3. I'm going to use 4 here, because if you use less than that, it tends to tear. Doesn't matter again. If the tarpaulin, you can see that bit there, don't worry about that. And don't worry about the edgings either, because the more things you do like that, the more actually realistic it becomes. So we're just going to lay it on the top like that, and then we're just going to take our PVA 50% glue mix, and that's PVA and water, and we're just going to paint on our PVA like so. This has got a bit of brown paint in it, by the way. It's ignore it, it should be white, but you can probably see what's happening already is the toilet roll starts sticking to the whatever load you've got, this being steel, of course, or a mock steel, model steel load. Making a bit of a mess, but I always do. Just cover that there. Again, you've just got to try not to tear it, but even if you tear it, it's actually not the end of the world, because how many tarpaulins do you see that are torn? There's plenty about. See, I've torn that there already. Not to worry, we'll put another bit of toilet roll on that in a sec. And PVA, this PVA dries clear anyway, so if you do spill a bit, again, it's not the end of the world. Right, nearly there. I'm not going to speed this camera up, I'm just going to talk you through it, because it's quite easy, and it's one of those things that's actually quite satisfying as well. You see, look, I've made a mess already. Put a hole through my tarpaulin. But I think if you see lots of footage of British Rail or any more modern eras, I'm sure there's tarpaulins with holes in them. And what we'll do in a minute is we'll cover that with another sheet of paper. Right. I think that's just about. You can see what's happening, can't you? Because the toilet paper is sticking, and revealing more and more details of whatever load you've got underneath. In this case, as I've just said, it's steel. Right. Try not to put a hole through it again. There we go. And all you need to do is leave this to dry for at least 2 days. I'm going to come back to this next week, because it's Thursday today and I'm not going to have a chance to, by the time you watch this video, this will not have dried. So we're going to leave this until next week. But then we're just going to paint. It's not rocket science. You see actually where that's just that edge of that toilet roll, which obviously just looks like the edge of a tarpaulin. Put that over there. And there we go. Once that's dried, I guarantee you it will look, well, once it's painted, it will look exactly like the one next to it here, which I did a couple of years ago. And then all you need to do then is just simply get some chains, some model chain. I get them from, I think it was Cornwall Model Boats. They do lots of rigging for obviously sailing ships and motorboats. And they sell these little miniature chains. You can get them from Squires as well, I think, any model suppliers. But I buy a few at a time, and I just attach one end to the eyelets on the wagons, dab a super glue on the end of a little cocktail stick, and on each end rather, and then we're sorted. And you can already see that is looking really good. Again, sorry about the mess. I'm sure you've learnt by now I use too much of everything and make a bloody mess everywhere. But there you go. It'll dry, and it dries clear, so it's not the end of the world. Right, so we'll leave that till next week. We'll come back to it, and yeah, hopefully you can use this in any gauge you want, and you'll get some really, really good tarpaulin effects on your freight trains. So there we go, and we'll come back to it next week. Right, so we have jumped round the other side now. Let's just have a recap at this diorama that we're doing. The puddles that we did a few weeks ago, I don't know if you remember, I thought I'd have another experiment, and as well as the glass slides that we put in, I also put a dab of resin which I had left over on top of them. Again, I've put too much resin in as usual, and the depth, they're probably all right actually, but next week we are going to do all the static grass surrounding these puddles, and we're also going to do the between the tracks we're going to do as an unmade road. I was going to do it this week, but again ran out of time. And then the week after we're going to start ballasting all this, which is going to be, oh crikey, I don't really know, because when you think you've got to ballast all that, yeah, it's quite a job, isn't it? So I'm going to have to find a way of ballasting this track, making it look just as good as Heaton Lodge Phase 1, but at the same time, it's going to have to be done quickly. Otherwise, I'm going to be here with a long white beard at an age of 84, still doing this layout, which is not going to work. So, of course, we're going to find a way of ballasting track quickly, getting it off the sleepers, the tops of the sleepers, and everything else, and making it look good. So that is in the next couple of weeks. These ponds I am really pleased with. As you know, we had that ice effect for regular viewers. I did again fall into temptation, put a bit more resin that I had left over from the pour at the other end, but it's turned out really well, so I'm glad, because we've got all the depth. As you can see those bricks, you can see the gate, and then on the other one we've got the bike, which is half covered by the water, and the old sofa there. And we're going to do all the static grass there next week. And as I've just said, we're going to do all the middle of between these lines in like an unmade road surface that you generally get in marshalling yards. So if we just walk up this side, these are the 4 MGR sidings, holding sidings for track 4, which is the outermost main line. And then, of course, they come down into one track. And, of course, it brings us to the water feature that we made a couple of, well, 2-3 weeks ago now. Might even be a month ago now. But, yeah, again, regular viewers will know I poured too much resin in. But it's worked out okay. As a few people in the comments have said, I'm going to build up this surface between those tracks and this water. So it just looks like there's been a flood. I think someone even suggested park a vehicle there pumping out some water, but I might do that actually, but it looks okay. This side though, I'm really pleased with. It just looks mucky. In the corner, we've got all the Tesco carrier bags, buried bricks, loads of weeds and clag and all sorts of horrible stuff and gunge and whatever. And the track obviously has got to be ballasted. We're going to go over this bridge. A few people have mentioned in the comments about how I did the bridge. Dead easy how to make it look rusty. This is a plywood bridge, and I've got quite a few of these because this is typical of the West Yorkshire region. Probably when these bridges were built, there's a lot of this kind of design around here. But I just want to give you an update on Healey Mills, because Steve from Railway Laser Lines posted a few pictures the other day Healey Mills, I'm just going to move this. So this single track line runs over here and onto the next trolley. These are the tracks which run to Healey Mills, and there's 3, and they're going to run across this trolley here when I've put the top on. But then these other 2 trolleys, which are lower than the other 2, that's because the baseboard on the new Healey Mills shed, which is popping up on your screen now, he's making an absolutely stunning job of this. It's all going to be fully lit inside. Lots of people milling around, working in it, just like the real thing. And that's going to be right next to where the public are going to stand, which is just to the left of these trolleys. So there we go. That's a bit of an update. The main thing I need to do now is just get this track down, because I can't do anything until all the track is down. So apart from doing the diorama, which is kind of deflecting me a little bit, the main thing I'm going to do now is lay all this track. It looks a lot, but there's probably, again, as I said at the beginning of the video, 20-25 meters, and that is the main thing I'm going to be doing. So there we have it. I'm pleased with progress. We're going to call it a day for this week, and I will see you next week, and we'll do a few things together. I'm going to go and see Tim Horn as well in Norfolk, because he's doing a few things which we're going to be going through. So I will see you next week, and hope you enjoyed today. And thanks again for your support on the cooling towers too. See you next week.